for Muslims is 13.9 compared to 7.8 for all Canadians. So the question is, how do you plan to give young racialized Canadians access to meaningful employment? And the first question.
It was important to put it on because we needed to make sure that youth, and specifically Canadian Muslim youth, had a voice in this election. Now, there's so many issues that they're facing, and we wanted to be able to create an event that was true to their concerns and that was true to the fact that they're being marginalized from their electorate. And we wanted to make sure that the issues that they brought forward were actually discussed in an open manner and actually are being made election issues.
Muslim community. That is what I said. Because there are many cultures through these acts, so you are entirely misrepresenting my point.
People are talking all the time about how young people aren't involved in politics, how no one's engaged. And tonight we really saw that actually, democracy in this country is actually alive and well, and that people are engaged. I was talking to 13-year-olds who are here tonight from Thornhill. I mean, that is really important, and I think for the Muslim community, for sure it's important, but for Canadian society in general, an event like this to be as successful as it is, I think we all have to be super proud.
Happens, and he uses the rhetoric of Islamicism and jihadism and ISIS any chance he gets, right, to stoke fear and stoke Islamophobia. And this has a real impact on us as Muslims, on our children, at schools, everywhere. It is real.
Well, the reason why I'm running for the Green Party, the reason why I'm running in federal politics altogether, the impetus for me to run was C-51 and was Islamophobia and was the rhetoric of fear and division that's being used by all of the parties, not just the Harper Conservatives, but even the other parties talking about things like hijabs and niqabs and all that sort of stuff. And I knew I needed to do something, right? I needed to take a stand. And luckily, I am in Canada, and it allows me the freedom of speech, my charter rights and freedoms to be able to stand up. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm standing as a Green Party MP because a Green Party MP can speak on behalf of their community, can speak on behalf of their constituents, and does not have to live in fear of being whipped to vote a certain way or not.
Become a Canadian citizen. If you are a Canadian citizen, there are certain ties of loyalty that you maintain to this country. And when you commit an act of terror, you permanently and irreversibly sever those ties of loyalty. So frankly, if someone does commit an act of terrorism, they have no business being a Canadian citizen. And that makes the country safer.
The only good place for this legislation is in the garbage can. And that's where it's going to be. First of all, our economy is weak. We heard, particularly among Muslim Canadians, unemployment rates are high. And we, the Liberal Party, are the only party with a real plan to kickstart the economy, to produce jobs and growth. I also think Justin Trudeau is the strongest leader when it comes to fighting Islamophobia and protecting individual rights. And I think, like the other parties except the Conservatives, I think we would all favor stronger policies on refugees, on family unification, and those issues.
You believe in, and that's the Canada that we need to fight to bring back. That's why we need changes. We need changes to our citizenship rules. There's about 300,000 people waiting in a queue right now to get their citizenship. And when I have in my riding constituents who want to become full members of the Canadian family, and they're being told after many years, I'm sorry, but your language skills aren't exactly right. Well, we're going to repeal Bill C-51. This bill has no place on the books in Canadian society. And we are also going to repeal Bill C-24, which sets up 2 tiers of citizenship in Canada. Imagine that. That is not the Canada that I believe in. That's not the Canada that so many people have sacrificed so much to get here, to participate in. And we have to get our country back.
What really got to me was when the Liberals voted for C-51, even though they didn't agree with C-51. That's taken it's not a real position. You're wishy-washy. How can politics run that way, right? The only way a democracy works is when people vote for what they believe in. That is why I'm running for the Green Party.
Well, my view on C-51 is that it has some elements that are good. For example, Maher Arar would probably not have been tortured in Syria if the RCMP and CSIS had been able to share information, which they would be under this bill, but they are not before. But it has much that is really bad, and we are committed to change those things, to have parliamentary surveillance, to have a much narrower interpretation, sunset clauses. We believe in both protecting Canadians and protecting Canadians' rights, and our revised version would do both. My contention is that the NDP says one thing in Quebec, where they have many people who don't like the niqab and who are anti-Muslim.
That's
and
absolutely
he says,
not true.
let me finish my question.
But I'm not going to let you finish when you're saying absolutely untrue
well,
things.
then I'll give you the
That's
example.
absolutely untrue.
One of the leading Quebec members of Parliament, Mr. Boulris, for the NDP, he said that he was opposed to women who were public servants wearing niqabs.
Well, Tom Mulcair has been very clear. We support and agree with the federal court decision to strike down the Conservatives' law against the niqab. It's a dead stop. That's our position. That's our party's position, and our leader said it many times.
I wanted to get a better sense of the party platform, so what they're standing for, what are the different candidates and the different parties' positions on certain issues. What I really liked was that Dawanet and whoever organized this were actually able to capture all the key issues for Muslims, and those were the questions that were asked and the candidates were answering them.
I wanted to get an idea of at least what the perspectives of each party is, and I trusted that each candidate would at least try to represent the larger perspective that their own respective parties represent. And I think by and large, I got what I wanted. My
opinion on the Liberals and the NDPs were changed slightly just based on a couple of the issues that were discussed. I know when they brought up the issue of one of the MPs and how he tweeted, and I guess they weren't really addressing that. I also didn't like how McCallum kind of brushed away the question about how Justin Trudeau actually did implicate the BDS movement by saying that they were not welcome on campus. So I didn't like the fact that that was kind of like brushed over. That really did affect my opinion of him and my opinion of the Liberal Party, but I'm still not sure what I'm going to vote for, but at least I'm a little bit more educated on their stances.
There's a long way for us to go as a community to make an impact on federal elections. But I think events like this give us confidence and inspire a generation to be able to do more. I think Canadian Muslims are young in their maturity in politics. However, I think there's great leadership within the community that is going to be driving it, and we have great volunteerism, and we have a phenomenal amount of energy amongst our youth to be able to actually, take this Canadian democracy and make it their own.
The Muslim community is in a pretty precarious place because number one, we don't show up to vote, and number two, we don't have a robust relationship with politicians or with the media to lobby both entities to influence public opinion. But hopefully, inshallah, with events like this and organizations like Project Civic Engagement out of Dawanet, we'll be able to push things in the right direction.
Candidates, let's give them a hand.
When you get out there on October 19th, it is so important for Muslim youth, for all youth, for everyone actually in Canada to vote. 40% of us didn't vote last time. You need to get there. You need to have your name checked off on that Elections Canada list so the government knows that this community is voting, this individual is voting. But show the Canadian government that our community has a voice and will vote, and vote in numbers this time.